everybody. It is April 13th, and this is Don't Talk to Me, the podcast where I have my first cup of coffee of the day and talk to you guys so that no one talks to me. So I'm having my first sip right now, and we'll end this bad boy when I have my last sip. One sec, let me have a sip of coffee, then we'll get moving here. Oh my god, that's so good. I gotta have coffee black. My dad drinks coffee black. I think it's a genetic thing. I think it is cool that the best things are just plants that are ground up and heated. You know what I mean? No, this is good. What a week, dude. I want to tell you guys all about it. Crazy thing happened this weekend, actually. So I took my dog Kevin, who was a very popular subject in the last podcast. I took him to the dog park, and we were only there for about 5 minutes, but I don't even know how this happened, to be honest with you. And I was watching him play. He plays a little rough, but all of a sudden I notice that there's blood on his two front legs. And he was running around and he was doing this thing. He does laps, just like 15 laps in the dog park, chasing nobody. He's just so excited to be able to run. And I noticed that these two front legs have blood all over. I actually had to hold on to him and take him to a different area of the park that was shut off to look at it. And I don't know if you know this about me. I pass out from blood. I think it's gross, and it's nothing personal to the bleeder, but it is disgusting. I really pass out thinking about any health event. I remember my friend had open heart surgery, which I don't know if you're familiar with surgeries. It's kind of a serious one. And I went to visit. He was all covered up. He knew about my situation. He wasn't like holding his heart in his hand, like he was good. But I just saw a little tube that was coming out of him, probably, of his blood. I tried. I was upright for a good 45 seconds, and then I just felt it come in. And next thing you know, I was on the floor eating gummy worms. I totally passed out on the floor, and all of the nurses had to rush to me while my friend was, opened up on the, I guess not opened up, but he had a pretty serious surgery. It was only a couple days after that. And I had to be revived with gummy worms, which if you're going to be revived, it's the way to go. Gummy worms are, I think they were of the sour variety. But anyway, so I don't do well with blood, right? And I'm looking at Kevin's wound, and I'm not gonna describe it to you guys, but there were things hanging off that weren't supposed to be hanging off. And I'm like, okay. And the weird thing was that he was fine. I mean, he was he wanted to keep playing. And then I put his leash on him and took him out. And luckily, there's a vet about 2 blocks away. And on the way to the vet, you would think that this guy was in an Olympic race. I mean, he was just sprinting because he had so much energy from the dog park. So he had only been there for about 5 to 10 minutes. And he was sprinting, not knowing he was going to the vet. He probably wouldn't have been sprinting then. He thought he was going home. And we passed the veterinarian. And at this veterinarian, we went inside, and I'm so socially awkward that there was another dog in front of us. I had a bleeding dog. They would have taken me. The blood, once there's blood outside of body, you kind of become a priority wherever you're at. So I couldn't, though. There was a dog in front of us, and I just let them go. We stood to the side, Kevin just sitting around like, oh, but he's not really scared of the vet. He's a puppy, so I guess he is now. One sec. Let me have a sip of coffee, folks, then we'll be right back at it. Oh, yeah. It's a good cup of coffee when it can be lukewarm and still good. But anyway, the guy leaves, and I'm like, I can't look at Kevin's leg because, like I said, I'm really squeamish around blood, so I just kind of looked him in the eye because I know if I look down towards Kevin, I'm gonna see it was a big wound, So I just look straight, and I'm like, "Hi." They're like, "Hello." I said, "Yeah, so my dog's bleeding, and I thought I'd come here." I said it so casually, as if I was like, I was looking for a glass of water, and I came into the vet. They were like, "Oh, okay." And then immediately Kevin became very popular. They started whispering to each other. I couldn't hear everything, but they were like, "Are we gonna prepare triage?" And I was like, "Look, triage means another $300. We don't need to triage. I was hoping you'd just wrap him up on the sidewalk if we could do that. But anyway, he got triage, and now I have to do more comedy work. But he is currently at home, and Kevin's fine, and he lost. Technically, he fractured his thumb, and like not his thumb, obviously, but the dew claw. He's okay though. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be as okay as he is. He's doing fine. He has it wrapped up. He has a cone on, which puppies are hard to manage as it is. But this guy, it's practically a plastic battering ram that he has put onto his head. They turned him into a weapon. He charges through the house as if he's gonna, knock every single animal out. But he's a good boy. We're at home now. He's in our room as we record this, and I think he has another appointment on Friday. And if they charge me $300 for that too, I'm going to go on tour, I guess, because this is not getting any cheaper. Okay, what else is going on, man? I was drinking matcha at the comedy club this past weekend because it was a busy weekend of shows. I had Friday at Greenwich, and Saturday at New York Comedy Club, and Sunday at New York Comedy Club and Broadway. It was a busy weekend of shows, and I was in the green room drinking a matcha, and I know I'm more of a coffee guy out here, but the occasional hot matcha I'm okay with. There's nothing wrong with that. One of the comics came up to me, and I guess she thought it wasn't a masculine thing to do. She was like, Mac, men like you used to go to war. And immediately I thought, like, look, men like me never went to war. You know what I mean? Like, I don't do war. War is not on my bucket list. I've never been. We're at war right now. We are currently at war, and no one's called me up. You know what I mean? This is not. No, not only has no one called me, they moved the draft age to 43. They're trying to move it to 43. Still haven't called me. They're like, we would rather get a middle-aged guy off the couch who's watching the Colts game. We'd rather have him than a 25-year-old stand-up comedian who looks like half a Q-tip. I mean, even I will, in their defense, me going to war, I'm like, imagine me storming the beaches of Normandy. I'd be getting the sand out of my shoe. I'd be like, putting on water shoes. Gotta get my SPF. It would. I'd have like a camo rash guard. I couldn't. War is not in my future. She's like, back mentally, you used to go to war. I even think if I was in the middle of the 40s, the peak of World War, they'd be like, yeah, we'll pass on that. It is an interesting time to be at war, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't feel like we're at war. I thought there would be more marching. More people down the streets marching. There's no marching. Not I don't want marching. I just thought there would be more. Everything's going to shit, though, isn't it? There was a homeless woman on the street, or a person who needed fiscal assistance. And I noticed, because she was like, may I have some dollars? And I thought, 10 years ago, I was 15, and I would go to school, and we were asking for nickels. That's what people were asking for. People were asking for nickels and dimes. Then it went up to quarters. All of a sudden, we're at plural dollars. People are like, there is no way I could get 1,000,000 dimes and still not be able to afford an avocado toast. So maybe I could just start with dollars. I know our country is not doing well. Whenever people, I think I said this in the last episode, but I get all these tourists in these shows, especially in Midtown, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? We're not doing well as a country. Either side you swing it. But I will say that for both of them, when people make fun of the thing, not the policy. They don't make fun of the policy. They'll make fun of, he falls asleep during meetings, even falling off his bike with Biden. And I'm just like, what do you think an 80-year-old does? That's what 80-year-olds, that's their main thing, is being old. They take Ensure, and they go on ventilators, and they have catheters. I mean, These are not well people. When I went to college, I walked into the Capitol, and you could see senators and representatives walking around to various offices. They are not doing well. They are all ancient. They are, they're like, remember in episode 9 of Star Wars, and Darth Sidious has been using a cloned body because obviously he was killed at the end of episode 6 and his soul lived and he had been making these cloned bodies. Honestly, can I be honest, honey? She said spoilers. The movie does not explain it well. And I think that if the movie did explain it well, it would be considered a better movie. So the fact that I'm explaining this to you ahead of time is probably good because you'll watch the movie and you'll understand that he goes into these clone bodies, but they haven't really perfected the technology yet. So there are these bodies, they haven't perfected the technology. While the soul is in the body and the body works, the body isn't living, and therefore he is rotting away. And what episode 9 is him trying to find a human body for him to inhabit instead of this clone bullshit that he's been trying for the past however many years. And that rotting Darth Sidious clone with him inside of it is what the senators looked like when I went to the Capitol. So going back to that, I really think that we gotta cut the president's some slack when we're electing people over the age of 75 to the highest office in the country. Look, of course Trump falls asleep during these meetings. Oh, ask your grandfather about foreign affairs and see if he doesn't fall asleep within 30 minutes. I mean, these aren't. People are like talking online, especially my Instagram. It's all like, he's gonna die soon. He's gonna die. And it's like, probably. The life expectancy is 78. Yeah, you elected someone they're all gonna die soon. The entire Capitol, like a third of them, it's the oldest Congress we've ever had. If you want a president who can be somewhat athletic, go find like their college highlight tape, their high school highlight tape. And if it's in black and white, let's move on. I mean, Trump and Biden were around when there were only 48 states. That seems like it should be a bit of a, you know, cutoff point. How about you're only allowed to be in charge of the states that were around when you were born? Jesus Christ. Okay, here's what I'll say about the Trump dozing off. We didn't have this when all of the other, from Lincoln to Caesar to all of these people, because not everything was filmed, right? So we think, oh my God, Biden fell off a bike. It's like, I bet Caesar fell off some horses. I bet he did. He was, 50 by the time I bet he fell off a couple horses every once in a while. Yeah, everyone says, oh, Putin fell down the stairs and urinated all over himself. It's like, okay, that's embarrassing. But don't you think Lincoln probably pissed himself a couple times? I don't know. He got hammered and threw up in a toilet. They're people. That's what I love about history. It's like, you forget that all of these historical figures had panic attacks and, would come too early. Anyway, all right. I'm feeling a little more refreshed. I hope you learned something about, nope. No, why can't I end this podcast? Jesus Christmas. Can I just say Jesus Christmas? That was the whitest thing I've ever said. That was so embarrassing. So, let's introduce our guest for next week. We have, this guy. Wow. This is, okay. This next guest, you guys ready? This next guest, he is the leader of a country. He's the leader of a country. It says here, he's the leader of a communist country, one of the worst dictators in the world, and he's been in power for quite a while. Very notorious young man. We are going to be interviewing Kim Jae-un from North Korea. He's from North Korea, and he's the leader of North Korea, and he's going to be on this podcast. We're going to fit together in this little closet that I'm currently recording in, and I guess we'll chat about what it's like to lead a country successfully. I don't really know a lot about him, to be honest. I'm gonna have to do some research, but he seems important. So that'll get us some views. We'll have some coffee. I wonder if he drinks coffee. I don't. What does Kim drink? Who knows? But we'll share something, and we'll share stories, and we'll have a great time. Until next week, have a great week, everybody. I'll see you later.